If you thought you'd seen it all when it comes to Mario, let me introduce you to one of the weirdest games I've ever played, Super Mario Land 2. I recently played this game for the first time, and it was much better than I thought it'd be. The levels were very in-depth for a Game Boy game, and they brought about a lot of fun and interesting new ideas. So that's why today, I'll be ranking the top 10 Super Mario Land 2 levels. This list is based on how creative each level is, how good the layout for each level is, and anything else that makes them stand out. And believe me, after having played this game recently, I can assure you that this game does contain a lot of really weird things. But enough stalling, let's get to the countdown! Number 10. Tree 2. First up is a level that takes place inside a large hollow tree. The whole level is covered in sticky tree sap that Mario can get stuck in. Swimming through the sap is a lot like swimming through the water, except it's a lot slower. While it can be tedious to get through, it does lead to some pretty creative platforming that was really ahead of its time. Although Mario must feel really disgusting afterwards, since he's essentially swimming in maple syrup. Gross. One thing that's really cool about this level is that it splits into two paths after a while, each with their own unique challenges. It doesn't really matter which path you take since they both take you to the end, but it's still so cool that you can do that in a Game Boy game of all things. The atmosphere in this level is also incredible. The dark background and ambient music really add to the idea that you're in a tree, and it's super immersive, at least for 1992 standards, but I really can't complain. Every aspect of this level is filled to the brim with character and charm. It may not be the craziest thing in the world, but it certainly is whoa, hold on! Is that a cowfish? Oh, this is gonna be a really weird game, isn't it? Number 9. Mario Free. Who doesn't love toys? If you said yourself, well, you're wrong, because you're watching a video about a toy right now. And it's a good thing too, because that's what this level is all about. All of the enemies are based on different types of toys, like Army Men and Jack-in-the-Boxes. There's even one part where you get to ride on a crane like it's some sort of claw machine. Actually, that looks really painful. It's a really creative theme, and I really like the design of it all, but there's a few parts along the way that are a bit slow for me. For example, there's this one part where you have to ride on a track to get across these spikes, and it takes forever! I mean, I guess it's fine and all, but they're really not my thing. Other than that, there really isn't too much to complain about. It's a solid level all around that's sure to keep you entertained. Number 8. Turtle 1. Now you might be asking yourself why this level's called Turtle 1. Well, it's because in order to get to this level, Mario gets eaten by a freaking turtle. I have no idea how anyone could come up with something so random, but I mean, it works. The level itself is fairly easy and doesn't offer much of a challenge. Most of it takes place underwater, but there are a few parts where you can choose to go on land. In fact, there's this one area on top of a wall that's only accessible if you have the bunny power-up. The bunny power-up. One of the most underrated Mario power-ups of all time. Pardon the interruption, everyone, but I just have to talk about something for a second. When Mario eats a carrot, why does he turn into a bunny that floats? That doesn't make any sense! I'm sorry, but bunnies don't float. Who thought of this? I'm sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. The enemies here consist of Cheep Cheeps, sharks, and these pufferfish guys, so there's some pretty good variety here, and the level design is top notch. It doesn't do anything too complicated or weird, and I kind of like it that way. It's very calm and peaceful with not much going on. The good swimming controls combined with the easily avoidable enemies make for a very relaxing level, which is exactly how I like it. This level might not be the craziest thing on this list, but for what it is, I still really enjoy it. Number 7. Mario 4. I've only got one thing to say about this one. Legos. Seriously, do you know how painful stepping on Legos is? Either these Legos are made out of pillows, or Mario's got the greatest endurance I've ever seen. This level features some very basic platforming, along with some pretty rudimentary enemies. None of it's all too challenging, and you'll probably finish this one pretty quickly. The hardest part is dodging all these floating spiky guys, but they're really not a problem as long as you take your time. Wait a minute. NB? Did Nathaniel Bandy make this level or something? I mean, why else would it be there? The most memorable part of this level has to be the boss fight against the 3 little pigs. You fight them all individually, and they all have different attack patterns, which is really cool. But I don't know how I feel about having fairy tale characters in my Mario games. Can't wait for the next one. Mario Land Free, Revenge of Rumpelstiltskin. This level's definitely an odd one, but I'm sure it's one you'll have a hard time forgetting. Number 6. Pumpkin 1. I can't tell you how refreshing it is to play a haunted-themed Mario level that isn't filled with a million puzzles. This one cuts the bullcrap and is your standard, no-nonsense Mario level that just so happens to have a Halloween theme. You start the level in a graveyard before being greeted by Jason Voorhees. You'll then head into a haunted house that's filled with spikes, boos, and piranha plants. The platforming is pretty basic and doesn't require a lot of skill. There's a couple of different ways you can go too, which gives this level some extra pizzazz. And at the end, Dracula throws some bats at you, and then it's over. Out of all the Mario levels I've described on this channel, none have been as weird or as random or as absurd as this one. I feel like this description would work better for a horror movie than a video game, yet here we are. All I know is that this will forever be one of the strangest video game levels I've ever played. Number 5. Macro 1. We've already talked about a haunted-themed level, but you know what's even scarier than that? Ants. Frickin' ants! And this level's full of them too. You've got your regular ants, spiky ants, construction ants, ants with guns? Boy, this got messed up real quickly. Anyways, this level's probably the hardest one so far on this list. The platforming is much more complicated, and there's a lot more enemies to deal with. The moving platforms don't make things any easier, and they make for a good challenge. I mean, I guess it isn't that hard since this is a Mario game after all, but this level turns up the difficulty a bit, and it's a nice change of pace from the usual easy-peasy levels we're all used to. As long as you don't mind getting an infestation in your Game Boy, I guarantee you'll find this level enjoyable. Number 4. Mario 1. Hey, who put Tick-Tock Clock in my Mario land? Not really, but I can definitely see how Mario 64 took inspiration from this game. This level will have you jumping on spinning gears, rotating platforms, and much more. The enemies here consist of spikes, Koopas, and floating screws. Yeah, I don't know about that one. The platforming isn't too challenging in this one, but there's enough variety that this one always stands out. I really like the ending too, because you have to use Bunny Mario to float down and collect all the coins. It's by far one of the most memorable endings of any level in the game. I really don't have much else to say about this one. If you've played Tick-Tock Clock before, this is basically just that, but in 2D. And frankly, I think I'd take this level over Tick-Tock Clock every day of the week. It's that awesome. Number 3. Macro 4. For all the reading fans out there, this one's for you. The majority of this level is made out of books that Mario has to jump across. It reminds me a lot of Kamek's library from Mario Party DS, since both locations seem to be in haunted libraries. This level definitely has some spooky vibes to it, and is pretty atmospheric as well. The enemies here are your typical Goombas and Koopas, but sometimes this witch shows up to steal your power-ups. Jerk! The second half of this level has a lot of moving conveyor belts, which leads to some pretty fun level design, and it's all topped off with a boss fight against a rat. I beat it in 10 seconds. Don't get me wrong, it's a good fight, it's just a little easy, but even so, the theme along with the excellent platforming makes this level one to remember. Number 2. Space 2. Most Mario levels are pretty much the same. They always make you run and jump your way until you get to the end. But this level takes that idea and just laughs in its face. Rather than stay on the ground the whole time, Mario has to fly through space while dodging stars and other obstacles. Since it's an auto-scroller, you are a bit limited as to where you can go, but you have complete control over Mario's vertical movement, and it makes for one of the most unique levels I've ever played. Like seriously, this doesn't even feel like the same game anymore. It's probably hard to tell just from looking at this footage, but this doesn't feel like Mario. It feels completely different, and it doesn't even matter because I love it all the same. It kind of makes me wish we had an entire Mario game that controlled like this, because this is really fun. Oh, and did I mention that there's a boss fight against Tatanga from the original Mario Land at the end? What? The last thing I'd like to bring up is the music. Ooh, that music! I think this might be one of the greatest 8-bit arrangements I've ever heard, because this song absolutely kills it. I know this level is quite the departure from what Mario fans are used to, but it's truly out of this world, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Number 1. Hippo. I don't really know what to call this level since it doesn't really belong to any particular zone, so I'm just gonna name it after what I see. Hippo was another one of those half land, half underwater levels, and the entire thing is a blast. The underwater section is kind of basic with some decent hazards to watch out for, but the land section is where this level truly shines. Mario gets to fly around in this bubble that lets him float all over the stage. It acts similar to the way you could fly around in space too, except this time, you're not restricted as to where you can go. It's a lot of fun going around and discovering all the little areas hidden in the sky. I've spent more time than I care to admit doing this, which proves how awesome it really is. But you might be wondering how Mario gets in the bubble in the first place. All you have to do is jump into the snot bubble that comes out of the hippo's, well, this seems like a good spot to end the video. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Super Mario Land 2 sure is a bizarre game, but it's definitely got some fun and interesting levels. I recommend you try it out if you get the chance. Now, if you'll excuse me,